All right, good morning. My name is Jeff Orrock here at the National Weather Service office in Wakefield. Continuing to talk about this winter storm, trying to dial in the storm. Some things do continue to change on us, and we'll make sure we hit those pretty hard. There's some things we're certain about. There's still some things we're not so certain about, given the nature of this system, and so we'll make sure to walk through all of that. The first slide you see here, obviously the area in red is where we are expecting some pretty major winter storm impacts with some pretty high snow totals. But even the areas in orange, we're still going to see some pretty significant travel issues from this event. And it could be somewhat of a prolonged winter storm event that we'll be kind of walking through here. I'm not going to worry about the word slides. You guys had all this in the email briefing. Just our impact scales. I mean, we're kind of almost getting into the extreme amount of snow. When you start talking about maybe 10 to 12 inches. So I say we're significant to extreme. Not expecting much wind until later on. We might be bumping this up to elevated, but that's mainly going to be probably more like into Thursday. The winds actually pick up the most kind of right at the tail end of the snow event and then pick up after the snow, but we will have some blowing snow issues. Are still expecting some gale conditions later on. That's going to be a little bit later into the event. Also going to be very cold, so some pretty cold wind chills given the wind and the extreme Arctic nature of the cold air coming down behind, actually with the system and behind the system. So we'll be getting into all of that. The good news is there's really no ice with this event, so that's the good news. Right now, we do have winter storm warnings in effect for everywhere that you see in pink. We have upgraded to we have warnings in effect everywhere you see in pink. Watches remain in areas in blue. And we kind of kept watches up here for a little bit longer on the north side, trying to fine tune those areas that could still see some heavy snow and which areas might not get quite as much snow. So we will be updating this afternoon. We'll be basically defining where the warnings will be, and if we do need advisories, it may very well be we have to convert most of the area to a winter storm warning this afternoon, but we're trying to fine-tune the north edge. The north edge is where we have the most question marks right now at this point. I do suspect you will see a lot of central Virginia fall under the warning, though, a little bit later today, so just a heads up. Before we get too much into the system, I'm going to get a little bit into the meteorology because I think this will kind of help us understand why there's still some questions in what's going on with this system and how the system might play out. This is looking at the weather map, and we'll just go ahead and jump it ahead to this afternoon. We have really cool high pressure over us, and you have very, very strong high pressure dropping down out of the Arctic across Canada and coming down through the Dakotas. And this is cold air that's coming in, but kind of like right on top of and right behind this winter storm. And it's really a two-pronged system right now. You have all this snow that's coming across parts of the Midwest with one part of the system, and the other part of the system, we call it the southern stream part of the system, is going to get going here over the Gulf and eventually jump out here to the Gulf of Mexico. So as you move this ahead in time, you actually have a snow system to the north. This is the weather map this evening, and you have a low pressure system forming here over the Gulf. So these are actually really two different weather systems that are actually kind of moving along together in time. Get into tomorrow morning, and you continue to see the systems here are really kind of separated. You're really seeing the snow that's been moving from west to east across the country. Now it's starting to move across the mountains here tomorrow morning, but at the same time, you're starting to see the low pressure system that was in the Gulf. It's actually jumping over here to the East Coast, and you have a new wave of low pressure developing near Savannah. Why are we talking about this? The reason why this is so important is the northern part of this system is going to link up with the southern part of this system. And when that happens, we're going to have a nor'easter develop along the coast, and it's going to intensify. So the system is literally going to develop. The southern stream system is going to develop and intensify once it pulls off of Florida and kind of spin up off of Savannah and then lift northeast along the coast. By the time we get into, this is actually tomorrow evening's weather map, you're going to have the nor'easter spinning up, starting to push moisture back to the north. At the same time, it's starting to link up with that snow system that was coming straight across the country. So the two are trying to merge right over parts of eastern Virginia. And that's why we're expecting some of this heavy snowfall to really get going later on tomorrow. So this is where things are coming together. By the time we get into Thursday morning, you see we have a nor'easter that's continuing to intensify offshore. It's continuing to push moisture back to the west, but you also see a lot of snow here still back over West Virginia, eastern Kentucky, and that's because the upper level part of this storm system is still going to be coming through. So I think we're still going to see a good bit of snow Wednesday, I'd say before daybreak. We may see a little break in the snow in some places, and then a second burst may come through a little bit later on in the morning. And by the time we get into Friday, of course, this storm system's long gone, and you have very cold high pressure that has dropped down out of the Arctic area region that's now settling in across Virginia, and that's going to make things very cold for basically Thursday night, Friday, and even into Saturday before we start to rebound temperatures later on this weekend and early next week. So very, very cold high pressure moving in. So that's kind of gives you an idea of what the whole system looks like. And that's why this is kind of, we're still trying to fine tune snow amounts, trying to figure out how these two systems are going to merge, because they're going to merge literally right over us. And so that's what we're trying to fine tune. All right, so here we go with our snow totals. This is our best guess forecast as of right now. Still a pretty broad area, I'd say, of 8 to maybe 9 to 10 inches of snow. 12 inches is probably in the upper range, lower probability, but widespread 8 to 10 is possible for sure in the areas in orange, and I'll break that down for you guys here a little bit more in a minute. Could see a kind of a broad area of 4 to 6 inches of snow. How far north the snow goes is kind of the biggest question mark, because we do have some moisture coming in with the southern stream, and you also have that upper system coming across. Richmond area could be really tricky. You could get some good snow here on Wednesday. It may actually let up a little bit for a little while, and then as the upper system comes across, may get another big burst of snow later on Thursday morning, and you could end up totaling around 4 to 6 inches. So that's why we kind of have those higher totals up there, because it may be kind of a 1-2 punch. It's even a 1-2 punch down the southeast, and that's what's going to help push our totals maybe up higher of 8 to 10 inches in southeast Virginia. As you go further north, it gets a little bit more questionable how much snow we're going to get in Louisa, Caroline, north of Tappahannock, especially north of Salisbury, where you're seeing 2 to 3 and even the 3 to 4. That's really kind of tricky. It could be a lot more snow than that. It could be a teeny bit less. It could go either way. I think in the blue band where you see the 4 to 6 south, the confidence is definitely higher there, I think, for getting some pretty good snow totals. Once you get way north here in this lighter blue where you see the 2 to 3 inches, that's the big question mark. And those totals could go up dramatically. There's some models that are saying this 4 to 6 inches of snow is going to extend, much further north. And that's what we're trying to fine tune. But I think we have pretty good confidence in the 4 to 6 and pretty good confidence here in the bullseye. So that gets us into the snow probabilities. The chances of getting at least 4 inches of snow is pretty much a slam dunk for everybody. If you're in the orange and the red, you're probably making a run at 4 inches. Louisa right now, maybe about a 1 in 3 chance of 4 inches. That probability might increase. Actually, with the later updates, some of the models are starting to increase snow totals up there. Same thing in Cambridge, maybe about almost a 1 in 3 chance of getting 4 inches up there. 6 inches of snow everywhere in orange is pretty much, again, a pretty good probability. You're kind of in the sweet spot. So most of the models and the guidance, if you're in the orange, are suggesting you're getting 6 inches or more. If you're in the red, 6 inches right now in the models is pretty much a definite thing, and probably even more snow than that. So you definitely see here in the red most of the eastern shore from Melfa, from Accomack south, getting most of the peninsula, I'd say from Williamsburg south, coming back through Franklin and even almost down to Elizabeth City. So this area here definitely getting into 6 inches, moving into 8 inches of snow here on the left. Areas in orange, again, you're talking about 65% probability there in Norfolk of 8 inches of snow. That's very high. So that's telling us 65% of the models are saying you're going to get at least 8 inches of snow. So I think the area in orange has right now the best probability, and this does include Elizabeth City, the best probability of making that run at 8 inches. Getting back towards Petersburg, it's about a 30% chance, and down to Emporia. So that's kind of the I-95 corridor. So at a 30 to 33% probability, that's a 1 in 3 chance. So what that's saying is about a third of the models are still suggesting that part of the I-95 corridor might make a run at 8 inches of snow. So the areas in yellow are nothing to slough at. Even Richmond has an 18% probability. So that's about what is that, about a 1 in 5 chance? So about a fifth of the models are suggesting you might make a run at 8 inches of snow. Same thing up here in Salisbury. So we got to watch this, especially with the potential for some of these higher totals. Now back towards Louisa, the probability of 8 inches of snow, much less. So that's how you interpret that. Looking at the probability of a foot of snow, it's doing a good job, I think, trying to zero in on the areas that could see the really, really heavy stuff. Some very, very high totals. And in Norfolk right now, it's about a 1 in 4 chance. So about a fourth of the models are suggesting that you might make a run at 12 inches of snow. And so there's some significance there. Even Williamsburg, is almost about, got a 1 in 10 chance, so a little bit lower, but we'll see. These probabilities are going to change. It's just trying to dial in the areas that might see the most snowfall. And so again, some really good confidence there. I'm going to just kind of glance over it and show you guys maybe the latest, some of the latest model ensemble guidance. This is the dynamic ensemble scenario that basically puts a lot of the models in and blends it all together, and kind of gives us a good statistical distribution. So this is if you take everything together and you run the average of the models, this is what you get. So you're still getting some pretty high totals here across the Hampton Roads of anywhere from 8 to 10 inches. And even the 7 to 8 inches 6 to 8 inches runs as far north as Wallops Island and comes down here through parts of, we'll say Williamsburg back to Petersburg and up and down the I-95 corridor. So again, if you think back to that probability of 6 and 8 inches of snow, the new guidance is still kind of following along with that, running from the best probabilities of that heavy snow, probably from Wallops Island, coming down, north of Gloucester, maybe even up towards Toano, back towards Petersburg, and then running up and down the I-95 corridor. Here are the areas in yellow. As you go north and west, the totals do continue to drop off. The question is going to be, how fast do those totals drop off? Right now, the average forecast model prediction in Richmond is running around 5 inches of snow, and even back in Louisa is still about 3 to 4. So we're going to have to keep an eye on that. But this is some of the latest, I'd say, average of the model guidance that's been coming in. I won't break down this too much more, getting too far into the weeds, but I kind of wanted to show you at least the latest as far as what was coming into us. As far as icing is concerned, really not expecting much icing with this. This is maybe showing a little bit of a mix right along the immediate Albemarle Sound. That might be snow mixing in with a little bit of sleet. We're not really expecting a whole lot of freezing rain with this. There could be a little bit of light freezing drizzle at the end, but not a big issue with ice. This is all going to be snow. Now, one thing that's changed maybe a little bit from yesterday is the snow character does look a little bit drier. It's going to be cold. It does look like it's going to be maybe a drier type of snow. So Wednesday morning when the snow first starts to fall, coming in from the west, it's going to be definitely pretty dry. You see a lot of blue here on the map. So a little bit of a drier snow. Even Wednesday afternoon, you see a lot of blue here. So it's going to be a dry snow, maybe a little bit wetter as you get into northeast North Carolina. It's not going to be a real heavy wet snow. It just may be more of what I call a normal snow, where, once you get maybe, Norfolk, Williamsburg, Petersburg, Richmond north, especially up towards Tappahannock, north of Richmond, it could be a definitely very, very dry, powdery kind of a snow falling here Wednesday afternoon. As we get into Wednesday night, you do notice maybe that the blues kind of become a little bit more white here towards portions of Hampton Roads. So the snow character might change a little bit Wednesday night. Instead of those really small, fine flakes that are dry, you might start getting some of those big, fatter, wetter flakes. Basically, as the storm system gets closer to us and the atmosphere warms a little bit in the mid-levels, the snowflakes get a higher water content. And so they could be a little bit stickier, could be a little bit wetter, but it's not looking like it's going to be super wet in Hampton Roads. Still going to be, I'd say a normal snow, probably, if there's such a thing. And maybe a little bit more of a heavy wet snow as you get down here across portions of northeast North Carolina. That's Wednesday night. There may be a short little break in some of the snow, and then it may fill back in a little bit later on Thursday morning. And when that happens, that is going to be returning back to a pretty dry snow. So there could be a quick burst of snowfall here where it looks like things are ending, and all of a sudden things kind of redevelop Thursday morning. And when that happens, that will be a very cold, dry snow with a very cold Arctic air mass coming in with that burst of snow. And we'll talk about that more here in just a minute. So this is our timing. This is the onset timing, and we feel pretty good about the onset timing. So everywhere you see here in pink, the snowfall starting to maybe reach the ground here between 8 and 11. When you get out towards the eastern shore and portions of Norfolk and Virginia Beach, snow should be starting to reach the ground after 11, from 11 to 2. That's when the snow just probably really starts to first fall. So that's kind of our best guess as far as when that might occur. I'll pull over kind of a high-res model simulation to kind of walk through this, kind of a best guess. And so this is 5 a.m. Wednesday, and I think we're in pretty good shape. Anything that's falling is probably going to be evaporating, so no issues there. What's really neat about this, if I zoom out a little bit, you can definitely see the northern part of this system, and you can see the southern part of this system and how they're kind of separated. And they're basically, you know, this is pushing east, this is pushing northeast, and you're going to see these two merge right over eastern Carolina and eastern Virginia. So I'll stay zoomed out for a minute. Here we are at 6 a.m. Suggesting there could be some light snow falling across parts of central Virginia, probably still evaporating at this point because it is a little bit dry. So nothing I'd say yet. 7 a.m., you do start to see it expanding a little bit. May start to see a few little flurries by around 7 a.m., especially in the areas here in blue. But nothing really significant as of yet. You start to push 8 a.m., the darker blues start to show up maybe in the western parts of the area west of I-95. And so you might start to see snow reaching the ground there at that point. Maybe some light snow, light flurries starting to maybe reach the ground at 8 in the I-95 corridor. And you're seeing this system now continuing to come up from the south. At 9 a.m., you are definitely starting to see some darker blues here. I'll zoom in now so you can kind of see it a little bit better. Turn my sampling off. So you are starting to see some darker blues here starting to show up over central Virginia. So this is that western, that upper part of the system, that northern stream system. Snow may start reaching the ground here in Richmond by about 9 o'clock. You're starting to see maybe some higher rates in this east-west oriented band. The rest of the moisture continuing to come up from the south. Here's 10 o'clock, not much change, just expanding in some of the maybe better snow reaching the ground west of I-95. After 10 o'clock, things start to change. The system starts to link up. The southern stream system and the northern stream system, you can see, are starting to merge, and they're starting to come together. So now we have snow, especially the darker blues, extending all the way across the peninsulas, maybe starting to kind of get into Hampton Roads here a little bit, where we could start to see snow reaching the ground, I'd say right around lunchtime or snow. And actually also coming up from the south, starting to make its way across parts of Windsor, maybe getting up here towards Edenton and Elizabeth City. That's 11 a.m. Here we are at noon. Snow is really starting to try to spread in. Everybody's getting into this darker blue here. So we should start to see snow reaching the ground by noon just about everywhere. And then that continues to spread around 1 o'clock in the afternoon, at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And here we are at 3. And you're starting to see even darker blues starting to set up. So that's even heavier snow rates. So it's been snowing now pretty good everywhere for a couple of hours, probably since about noon or so. And we're starting to see some accumulation. Things are turning white. Maybe you've picked up an inch of snow by now, 3 o'clock on Wednesday, and you're starting to see the rates increasing. This is 3 p.m. Here we are at 4. We have 5 o'clock in the evening, and then at 6 p.m., and then 7 p.m. And these rates kind of continue to increase. Now, I think these higher rates are going to continue to push on up towards Williamsburg and start to make their way back towards I-95 and kind of blossom here as we push through the evening hours. And then eventually this whole system will start to try to make its way offshore. We're not really sure about the end timing here. This may be a little bit aggressive, but you can still see snow falling here through 3 a.m. Thursday, even 4 a.m. Here's 5 a.m., 6 a.m. Notice right in here, 7 a.m. Thursday, it looks like the system's trying to end, right? The darker blues look like they're pulling off the coast at 4 a.m. Looks like the snow maybe is starting to kind of break up across central Virginia. You'd think maybe it's starting to end. Not so fast. What's going on here? And I'll show you guys. And I know, excuse me for the weather side of this, folks. My weather friends will geek out, but this is the upper level low pressure system. So the surface low, the nor'easter, is trying to pull away from the coast, but we still have this very, very, very strong upper level system that has to come through. And for Virginia, I know it's hard to see. Virginia's sitting right here. And this upper level system is going to start to try to pivot through. And so this is sitting here around 5 a.m. Here's 6 a.m. in the morning, 7. This is getting us into about 9 in the morning, 10 in the morning. So this upper level system, and you see that red, we call that a vortex. But anyway, Virginia's sitting right in here. The bottom line is the upper level portion of this storm system is still pivoting through Virginia Friday morning. And this is at 10 a.m. It's still pivoting through, and it takes a little while for this upper level low pressure system to actually get out of the area. And so when this thing comes through, I think it may look like the snow's tapering off early Thursday morning. And then what's going to happen is the nor'easter is leaving us, but then this upper system's coming across. And I think what you're going to see is all of a sudden the snow just starts to blossom again and almost starts to try to redevelop. And this would be intense snow showers. If it was rain, it'd be like bursts of rain. And so these could be pretty intense bursts of snow, and places could pick up a very quick 1 to 2 inches of snow, maybe even a little more when this comes through. So you kind of see that a little bit here where it looks like it's ending. And all of a sudden here at the end at 7 a.m., you see the snow starting to pick back up across central Virginia. Boom, there it is, trying to redevelop. That's as far as that model goes out in time. So what I'll do is, to kind of make it a little clearer, this is 6 hourly snow totals, because I know timing is important to a lot of folks on the call. So this is the snow accumulation through Wednesday at 1 p.m. So just some light snow. We're not, it's been snowing lightly in the I-95 corridor, during the morning, but not a lot of real heavy snow accumulation. From 1 p.m. to 7 p.m. Wednesday, that's what happens. So we could pick up a lot of snow across central Virginia, and especially southeast Virginia, between 1 p.m. and 7 p.m. Wednesday. That's a 6-hour accumulation there. This takes us from 7 p.m. to 1 a.m. So again, continuing to get good snow across central Virginia, I-95 corridor, and right where we have the heaviest snowfall, it's been snowing pretty heavy. And this is that 6-hourly snow accumulation from 7 p.m. to 1 a.m. Thursday. Jump ahead another 6 hours. This is from 1 a.m. to 7 a.m. So again, still some decent accumulation here across central Virginia. Very heavy accumulation here still in the east. And this is set by 7 a.m. Thursday. Now, again, it looks like the system's pulling out. You think this thing, okay, the system should be ending. If I go to 1 p.m., you start to see the bullseye kind of redeveloping here over eastern Virginia, where we continue to have snow redeveloping. Even the I-95 corridor continuing to get snow, and that's the upper system. Over here, where you see these brighter colors, that's where the nor'easter is. The low pressure, the surface low is pulling away, but now the upper level low pressure system is squeezing whatever moisture's left, and that's why you're seeing additional accumulation from 7 a.m. Until 1 p.m. here on Thursday. And you notice how it reblossomed. It really blossomed here right over Hampton Roads again. That could be another quick, 2 inches of snow, maybe even a little bit more, because it's going to be a high ratio dry snow. And then finally, between 1 and 7, this thing is over. I think shortly after, by 1 o'clock, this thing's over. So Thursday morning is kind of tricky. I just want to let folks know, if it looks like it might be ending, it might actually be, it may be kind of teasing us. It looks like things are starting a downward trend, and then it re-blossoms. I do think this will be mostly over, I'd say by about 1 o'clock in the afternoon, by noon to 1, the system's pulling out. And this is not very much accumulation between 1 and 7. The only place that might get an inch after 1 o'clock might be the Eastern Shore. I think the rest of us are done by 1 p.m. Thursday, as it looks right now. And then it just continues to pull out. So that's kind of really walking through that in a nutshell. And so these are our ending times. And so in the briefing, these ending times was the ending for the initial burst of heavy snow, the really, really heavy snowfall. So we do think the real heavy constant snow is going to end sometime by about 1 a.m. in the I-95 corridor in pink, and probably by about, let's say, 3 to 4 a.m. here in the east in the red. That's that nor'easter part of it. That's going to pull out. But we are still expecting one more burst of snow after this. So it may not completely end in the I-95 corridor until, let's say, about maybe 9 to 10 in the morning on Thursday, and maybe not until about noon or so, noon to 1 here in the east in the red. So it's realize that the last burst of snow may come after this right here, the times you see here. And so this is kind of that hourly by hour forecast. I'm not going to go through all this. The bottom line is we are keeping some pretty good snow chances in the forecast until about 6 to 9 a.m. most places. It's going to taper off in the I-95 corridor first, and eventually make its way towards the coast, ending from west to east in the late morning and early afternoon. Getting into the wind side of this, again, you still see the timing of snowfall here Wednesday and Thursday. The northeast winds do pick up Wednesday, so especially places like Corolla you see here starting to maybe get to 25 to 30 miles per hour Wednesday afternoon and evening. Cape Charles, the winds are kind of picking up here as that low pressure system develops along the coast. Norfolk, again, about 15 miles an hour gusting to 20 miles per hour, and that's going to be during the period of heavy snow. So during the period of heavy snow, we're not going to see widespread blizzard conditions, but I think when you get towards Virginia Beach, Eastern Shore, it's going to be close. You're going to have some decent wind out there, especially Wednesday evening when the snow is going to be the most intense. rates are going to be 1.5 inches, maybe even 2 inches an hour. You're going to have some good northeast winds. So, places where you're going to have a decent breeze, it's going to be almost near whiteout conditions along the bay, especially maybe the south side Hampton Roads and Eastern Shore. So just be aware of that. Now, the winds continue overnight, and even though the snow may be ending between, let's say 9 a.m. to noon on Thursday, if you notice, those winds just keep on going. And so you're going to have the northeast wind becoming northwest. The winds are going to persist through Thursday. So this is going to mean blowing snow, which I know could really be a struggle for VDOT in some places where you're clearing the roads and things, but then the snow's blowing back on the road. And with it being a little drier snow, I think we are going to see quite a bit of blowing snow. This could be a bit of a problem, especially in areas where we're seeing 6 inches of snow or more. So those winds, stay up Thursday. In fact, they continue to increase along the coast Thursday afternoon, Thursday evening, and the winds don't start to let up until later on Friday. You see those winds starting to decrease finally, especially along the coast after, Friday noontime. So it is going to be windy, going to be breezy with this system. Though the strongest wind doesn't line up with the snow. There's a little bit of an overlap with the wind and the snow, but the strongest wind will be kicking in right as probably the snow is starting to taper off and end, and then it's breezy for some time. Temperatures, we hit on this yesterday, it's just going to be very, very cold. This is a low temperature Wednesday morning when the snow is moving in. The high temperature here on the right on Wednesday is snowing all day. Very cold, going to probably see some pretty good accumulation pretty quickly because the ground is going to be frozen. On Thursday, these are the low temperatures Thursday morning with that last little burst of snow coming through. Very, very cold. It's going to be a very, very dry snow. The high temperatures Thursday, maybe we hit 32 degrees. It's going to be snow everywhere. Reflects a lot of solar radiation, so it's going to be pretty cold even on Thursday for the high temperature. We might start to see the clouds breaking up a little bit late Thursday afternoon, but it may not be until, maybe after 2 or 3 o'clock. So probably not going to get much help from the sun to help with snow melting on Thursday. It does clear out really quickly Thursday evening, which will allow temperatures by Friday morning to be well into the teens everywhere, maybe low 20s at the coast. So it does clear out, and Friday will be sunny. So that's good news. This actually just hits on the wind chills. So just realize it's called wind chills. But getting back to Friday morning, the low temperatures everywhere in the teens, and the highs on Friday are probably mainly going to be in the mid to upper 30s. So it's going to be sunny, but still very cold. Highs in the mid to maybe upper 30s. That may be a stretch, there on Friday with the sunshine. Friday night, Saturday morning, again, back in the teens and 20s again. So things keep refreezing. Saturday, probably maybe starting to squeak out 40 or so, maybe low 40s on Saturday. And things do continue to warm on Sunday and Monday. We get into a little bit of I'll call it relative warming trend there. So going to be tough the first few days after this snow because it is so cold. And it's a very cold Arctic air mass coming down. For our marine friends, I'll go through this really fast. We are still expecting the gale conditions to develop. The timing here in red represents your gale conditions. So probably you'll kick it in there a little bit on Thursday and Thursday night. You see the red showing up in the bay and the coastal waters. And so we're not expecting gales on Wednesday, but the gale should develop there for Thursday night, and probably persist into Friday morning. You see the red here Friday morning. So I think by the time you get in Friday afternoon, the winds, we're getting below gale conditions anyway. I think we'll be much better off. And here's some of the peak winds. So we're looking at maybe about, 30, I'd say 35, maybe 38 knots or so here on the Chesapeake Bay, and over the water is about the same. It's all going to be about the same wind coming down. Winds initially, the strongest winds will be north and then northwest as that low pressure system's pulling out and the Arctic air mass is coming in. And this is just kind of a rundown of those winds there on the water. So you see those north winds really starting to crank up late Wednesday night, especially by Thursday morning. I think we're getting into those gale conditions, and those gales probably last till about noon. Maybe maybe even 10 a.m. on Friday, we start to get out of the gale. So that's your time window right there. I'd say Thursday, late morning, early afternoon till about Friday noontime. That's what we'll be looking at. So hopefully be a kind of a short-lived, short duration gale. But again, this also means blowing snow. So for everybody with snow, going to get some good blowing snow there. And so I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording. That covers most of this briefing.